No species will forget the day humans lost their patience. Part 1. The council chamber was the largest room Captain Park had ever seen. It stretched in every direction like a small city, filled with seats for thousands of alien diplomats. Floating lights drifted overhead like lazy stars. The air smelled strange, a mix of different atmospheres pumped in for different species. Had stood in this room many times over the past 3 years. She knew every corner of it. She hated every corner of it. Today she wore her formal uniform. The dark blue fabric was pressed and perfect. Her black hair was tied back in a tight knot. She looked calm. She always looked calm. That was what humans were known for in this galaxy. Smiling, patient, willing to wait. Lieutenant stood behind her. He was a big man with broad shoulders and hands that had seen combat. His job was security, but today his job was to stand still and say nothing. His jaw was tight. Could see the muscle moving under his skin. He was angry. They were all angry, but anger did not help in this room. The delegation sat across from the human section. They were tall beings with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were small and dark, set deep in flat faces. Ambassador was their leader. He had a way of looking at humans like they were insects that had crawled onto his food. High Prelate sat beside him. He was their religious leader, dressed in robes covered with golden symbols. He believed they were chosen by the universe to rule over lesser species. To him, humans were the least of the lesser. Stepped forward to the speaking platform. The room grew quiet. Thousands of alien eyes turned to watch her. She had done this before. She had given this same speech in different words dozens of times, but today was different. Today she carried something more than words. 3 years ago, she began, her voice steady and clear, humanity asked for simple trade rights. We asked to buy and sell goods like every other species in this council. We were told to wait, so we waited. She pressed a button on her tablet. Images appeared in the air above her. Ships, human ships, colony vessels filled with families looking for new homes. 2 years ago, raiders began attacking our ships in what you call unclaimed space. We brought evidence to this council. We showed you the wreckage. We showed you the bodies. We asked for help. We were told there was not enough proof, so we gathered more proof. The images changed. Bodies now. Human bodies floating in space. Children among them. A baby still held in its mother's frozen arms. The room shifted uncomfortably. 1 year ago, we identified the raiders, military vessels operating under false signals. We brought this evidence to the council. We asked for justice. We were told to wait for an investigation. Ambassador let out a small laugh. It was quiet, but in the silent room, everyone heard it. His eyes moved to him. She did not react. She continued. In 3 years, over 2,000 human civilians have been murdered, families destroyed, children killed, and in 3 years this council has done nothing. She lowered her tablet. Her hands were steady. Her voice did not shake. I stand before you today with new evidence. 3 hours ago, we detected a strike force moving toward the human colony of New. 40,000 people live there. Farmers, teachers, children. The strike force will arrive in 6 days. The room erupted in noise. Aliens spoke in their own languages. Translators struggled to keep up. Ambassador rose from his seat. Lies, he said. His voice was smooth like oil. More human lies. This primitive species creates false evidence to gain sympathy. They are manipulators. They cannot be trusted. High Prelate stood beside him. The humans worship false gods, he declared. They have no honor. Their culture is young and foolish. Why should the great species of this council listen to the crying of children? Watch them speak. She said nothing. Observer sat in the neutral section of the chamber. She was from a species that did not take sides. Her job was to watch and record history. Her large silver eyes moved between thee and the humans. She had observed many conflicts. She had seen many species rise and fall. Something about this moment made her feel cold. The council speaker, a being made of living crystal, raised its arms for silence. The council will vote on emergency intervention, it announced. Felt shift behind her. She knew what the vote would be. She had known before she walked into this room. One by one, the species voted. They and their allies voted no. The neutral species abstained. The few friends humanity had were not enough. The motion fails, the speaker announced. The council will investigate within the standard of 18 months. 18 months. The attack on Nu would happen in 6 days. Stood very still. Behind her, she heard breathing grow heavy. She heard Dr. Shin whisper something sad. She heard engineer's quiet curse. She reached up to her collar. Her fingers found the diplomatic credentials pinned there, the small golden badge that marked her as humanity's voice in this council. She had worn it with pride once. She had believed it meant something. She unpinned it. The room went silent. Every eye watched her. She placed the badge on the speaking platform. The small click of metal on stone echoed through the chamber. Humanity formally withdraws from these proceedings, she said. Her voice was still calm, still steady, but something in it had changed. The warmth was gone. You have made your choice. Now witness ours. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her crew followed. Their footsteps were the only sound. Observer watched them go. She had seen humans many times. They always smiled. They always tried to make friends. They always believed tomorrow would be better. Captain Park was not smiling. None of them were smiling. Had lived for 300 years. She had seen empires fall. She had watched species destroy themselves. She had recorded the last words of dying civilizations. She had never felt afraid of humans before. As the doors closed behind the human delegation, she made a note in her observation log. The words came slowly, carefully chosen. Today, for the first time in recorded history, humans stopped smiling. I do not know what this means, but I believe the galaxy is about to learn. She looked at the delegation. Ambassador was laughing with his allies. High Prelate was accepting congratulations for his insults. They looked pleased with themselves. They did not understand. Observer understood. She had watched humans long enough to know one thing that they did not know. Human patience was not weakness. It was a warning. And the warning had just ended. No species will forget the day humans lost their patience. Part 2. 48 hours after the humans walked out of the council chamber, the galaxy began to notice something strange. The humans were gone. Not dead, not hiding, just gone. Every human ship in alien space had vanished. Trade vessels that carried medicine and food between star systems stopped answering calls. Engineering teams that helped repair space stations packed their tools and left without a word. Doctors working in alien hospitals finished their shifts and never came back. Scientists sharing research with other species simply disappeared from their laboratories. It happened everywhere at once. One moment, humans were part of daily life across 1,000 worlds. The next moment, they were memories. On the station Harmony's edge, where the council met, Observer watched the panic begin. A merchant rushed past her, his 4 legs clicking against the metal floor. His species had weak immune systems. Human doctors had created medicines that kept them alive. Now those doctors were gone, and no one knew how to make more medicine. Where did they go? He shouted at anyone who would listen. We had a contract, they promised to help us. Stopped him with a gentle touch. What do you know about the humans? She asked. Her job was to observe, but sometimes questions helped her see more clearly. The merchant's eyes were wet with fear. They saved us, he said. 5 years ago, a plague hit our colony. We sent calls for help to everyone. They ignored us. The council said they would form a committee. Only the humans came. What did they do? They stayed for 3 months. Their doctors worked day and night. They did not ask for payment. When we offered them trade goods, they refused. They said helping was enough. The merchant's voice broke. Why would they leave us now? Had no answer. Across the galaxy, similar stories spread. A scientist posted a message on the public networks. Her species laid eggs that needed specific temperatures to survive. When their heating systems failed, humans had stayed awake for 4 days straight to build new ones. They had saved an entire generation of children. The humans never asked for anything, she wrote. They just helped. I thought they would always be there. I was wrong. Ambassador saw these messages and laughed. He stood in his private chambers drinking expensive wine and celebrating his victory. Let them run, he told Commander, who would lead the attack on Nu. The humans know they cannot fight us. They retreat like the cowards they are. Commander was not so sure. He was a military officer. He had studied human history. He knew about their wars. He knew what they had done to each other before they reached the stars. They did not seem like cowards, he said carefully. Their captain looked directly at you when she spoke. She did not look afraid. Waved his hand dismissively. Human expressions mean nothing. They smile when they are happy. They smile when they are sad. They smile when they are terrified. It is impossible to read them. She was not smiling. Then she was sad or terrified. Either way, she is not our concern. Continue with the attack plan. In 6 days, Nu will burn and the humans will understand their place in this galaxy. Far from space, the diplomatic vessel Evergreen drifted in the darkness between stars. Its running lights were off. Its signals were silent. To any scanner, it looked like dead metal floating in the void. Inside, Captain Park stood in the command center. Around her, screens glowed with information from across human space. Every human vessel had reported in. Every colony had received the order. Every citizen knew what was coming. Lieutenant entered the room. His face was hard, but his eyes showed something like hope. All ships are in position, he reported. The Colonial Defense Network is active. We are ready. Nodded slowly. How long? 3 years, said. We have been preparing for 3 years. Since the first attack on our people, we knew this day would come. Dr. Shin looked up from her medical station. She was a gentle woman who had spent her life healing the sick, but even she had limits. Did we have to leave so many people behind? She asked. The need our medicine, the trust us. We will return to them, promised. But first, we must end this. If we stay scattered across the galaxy, we are weak. Together, we are strong. Engineer walked in with a tablet in her hands. She was young, barely 25, but her mind was sharp as any blade. For 3 years, she had been doing more than fixing engines. She had been watching, scanning, mapping. I have finished the analysis, she said. Every military base, supply station, and communication hub, I know where they all are. I know their patrol patterns. I know their weaknesses. Looked at the data. His eyes widened. You mapped their entire military network. They thought I was just a friendly engineer making routine scans. Smiled, but it was not a warm smile. They never asked what else I was scanning. Studied the map. Red dots marked positions. Blue dots marked human ships. There were more blue dots than she had expected. How many ships do we have? 247 combat vessels, answered, plus 300 support ships, medical frigates, supply carriers, repair stations. Against the fleet. They have more ships, but their ships are old. Their tactics are older. They have not fought a real war in 2 centuries. They forgot what war looks like. Was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the council chamber. She thought about Ambassador's laugh. She thought about High Prelate calling human culture foolish. She thought about the baby frozen in its mother's arms. Commander's fleet, she said. When will they reach Nu? 4 days. We will be there in 2. She turned to face her crew. For 3 years we showed them patience. We showed them kindness. We showed them that humans can be good friends and good partners. They answered with murder and mockery. She straightened her uniform. Her voice grew cold. Now we show them what else humans can be. On the edge of human space, Commander's fleet moved through hyperspace. 40 warships armed and ready. The crews were confident. They had heard the stories. Humans were soft. Humans were weak. Humans would cry and beg when they arrived. Stood on his command bridge, watching the stars blur past. In 4 days, he would burn a human colony. In 4 days, he would teach these primitives to fear the Dominion. He had no idea that 200 human ships were already waiting for him. He had no idea that the soft, smiling humans had been preparing for this moment since the day they joined the galactic community. He had no idea that human patience was not the same as human weakness. But he was about to learn. The galaxy was about to learn. And no species would ever forget the lesson. No species will forget the day humans lost their patience. Part 3. Commander felt something was wrong the moment his fleet dropped out of hyperspace. New hung in the darkness ahead, a blue and green world circling a yellow star. It looked peaceful. It looked defenseless. That was the problem. It looked too defenseless. Scan the system, he ordered. His voice was calm, but his 4 hands gripped the command rail tightly. His sensor officer worked the controls. Seconds passed. Then the officer made a sound that made when they were confused. Commander, I am detecting multiple contacts. How many? The officer checked his readings again. Then a 3rd time. His gray face went pale. 200, Commander. 200 human warships. The main flickered. Stars disappeared behind a wall of metal. Human ships appeared from behind Noose Moon, from the asteroid fields, from the darkness between planets. They moved in perfect formation, like a single creature with 200 bodies. Stared, this was impossible. Humans did not have warships. They had trade vessels, medical frigates, explorer craft. They were soft, peaceful creatures who smiled too much and helped too freely. They were not supposed to have this. A communication signal cut through the silence. A human face appeared on the screen. Captain Park looked directly at him. She was not smiling. Commander, she said, her voice was cold and flat. You came to burn our colony. You came to kill our people. You were warned. Found his voice. You dare threaten the Dominion. Your species is nothing. You are children playing at war. We are not playing, replied. We have never been playing. You simply never asked what we were doing while we smiled at you. The communication ended. The battle began. It lasted 40 minutes. Later, military experts across the galaxy would study it. They would write books about it. They would teach it in their academies. They would ask the same question over and over. How did the humans do it? The answer was simple. The humans had been preparing for this since the first day they met the lieutenant commanded the attack from the Evergreen's tactical center. His voice was steady as he gave orders. Squadron 7 disable their flagship's engines. Squadron 3 take out their communication array. Do not destroy, disable only. The human ships moved like dancers. They knew exactly where to strike. Engineers' 3 years of mapping told them every weakness, every blind spot, every flaw in ship design. Weapons fired wildly, hitting nothing. Human weapons hit everything they aimed at. But they did not destroy. They disabled. Engines went dark. Weapons went silent. Communication systems fell apart. One by one, the ships became floating metal boxes, unable to fight, unable to run, unable to call for help. Not a single was killed. When it was over, led a boarding team to his flagship. The commander was waiting in his command center, surrounded by his officers. Their weapons were useless. Their ship was dead. They had nothing left but their pride. Expected death. In culture, defeated commanders were executed. It was tradition. It was honorable. The humans did not kill him. They put restraints on his 4 arms and walked him through his own ship. His crew watched in silence as their commander was taken prisoner by creatures they had called primitive. Was brought before Captain Park on the Evergreen. She stood in the center of her command room, surrounded by her crew. Dr. Shin was there, already coordinating medical teams to treat injured. Engineer was analyzing captured technology. Lieutenant stood behind like a shadow. "Why?" demanded. His voice shook with confusion and shame. "Why did you not kill us? You had every right. We came to murder your people. We have murdered your people before. Why show mercy?" Looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was quiet. "Because we wanted you alive to tell them what comes next." She nodded too. The lieutenant handed her a tablet. She pressed a button and the room filled with light. Images appeared in the air, not just images of this battle, images of crimes, ships attacking human vessels, soldiers boarding a civilian transport, bodies floating in space, the baby in its mother's arms. And then more images, images the humans had gathered secretly, attacks on other species, covered up, hidden, forgotten, 12 different civilizations victimized by the Dominion. "We are sending this to every species in the galaxy," said. "Every government, every news network, every citizen with a screen. They have hidden behind their power for centuries. No more hiding." Felt something cold settle in his stomach. The Dominion will not accept this. They will declare war. They already declared war when they killed our people. We are simply answering. On the galactic news networks, Observer watched the broadcast. She sat in her small ship, recording everything for history. The footage of the battle played on her screen. 40 warships defeated in less than an hour. 0 casualties. The humans had won completely and killed no one. She did not understand. Then she did. The humans were not just winning a battle. They were winning a story. The galaxy would see this footage. They would see the mighty humiliated. They would see the humans show mercy to enemies who deserved none. They would ask themselves, if humans can do this to what else can they do? And they would ask another question. Why did we let them treat them this way for so long? On the High Prelate watched the same broadcast. His hands trembled with rage. This was impossible. This was unacceptable. The chosen people of the universe could not be defeated by primitives. "Declare total war," he commanded Ambassador. "Mobilize every ship, call every ally, we will destroy them all." Nodded, but his face was pale. He had seen the battle footage. He had seen how easily human weapons tore through ships. He had seen his people spared by creatures he had called insects. He began sending messages to the allies. One by one, responses came back, but they were not the responses he expected. The first ally said they needed time to consider their position. The second ally said they had received disturbing information about activities and required an investigation. The third ally simply did not respond at all. The alliance was breaking, could feel it cracking like thin ice under heavy weight. Far away, on the Evergreen, Captain Park received a message from the human colonial government. "The galaxy is watching," the message said. "What do we do next?" Looked out at the stars. Somewhere in the darkness they were preparing for war. Somewhere her people were waiting for orders. Somewhere, a galaxy that had ignored human suffering was finally paying attention. She typed her response with steady hands. "We finish what they started. No species will forget the day humans lost their patience." Part 4. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Human fleets appeared at 7 military installations at exactly the same moment. There was no warning. There was no declaration. 1 second the space around each base was empty. The next second it was filled with human warships. The attacks were surgical. Human weapons targeted only military systems, power stations that fed weapons platforms, communication towers that connected command centers, shield generators that protected warships, nothing else. No cities were bombed, no civilians were harmed, No hospitals were destroyed. The military simply stopped working. On the industrial moon of Prime, Engineer led a small team of specialists. Their target was the Central Command Network, the heart of military communication. Thousands of ships depended on this system to coordinate their movements. Without it, the Dominion's fleet became 40 separate groups that could not talk to each other. Worked quickly. Her fingers moved across alien control panels like they were her own. 3 years of studying technology had prepared her for this moment. She knew their systems better than they did. "Firewall disabled," she said, "accessing primary network." Her teammate, a young man named, watched the door. "How long?" 2 minutes. Outside, they could hear soldiers running through the corridors. The base was in chaos. No one knew what was happening. No one knew where the humans were. No one knew how to stop them. Found the main control node. She uploaded a program she had written 3 years ago, updating it each time she learned something new about systems. The program was not a virus. It did not destroy anything. It simply locked every door, every system, every control panel on the military network. They could still use their civilian systems. They could still communicate with their families, run their businesses, live their lives. But their military was frozen. "Done," said she, smiled, but there was no joy in it. "Let's go home." Across the Dominion, similar scenes played out. Human teams appeared, did their work, and vanished. They were like ghosts. They could not catch them. They could not stop them. They could barely see them. Ambassadors stood in the council chamber of the Dominion capital, surrounded by terrified officials. Reports came in every minute, each one worse than the last. "Our forward fleet is dead in space. The defense platforms around thee are offline. We cannot contact our forces in the outer systems." Tried to reach their allies. The Empire had promised to send ships. The Federation had sworn eternal friendship. The Collective had signed a mutual defense treaty. None of them answered. He tried again and again. The silence was his only response. Finally, a message arrived from the Emperor. It was short. "We have received information about actions against our colony on 7. Your ships attacked our people and blamed pirates. We have evidence. Our alliance is ended. Do not contact us again." Similar messages came from the other allies. The files that humans had gathered told the truth about centuries of betrayal. Every ally had been lied to. Every ally had been used. Every ally had a reason to hate the Dominion. Felt his world crumbling around him. High Prelate refused to accept reality. He gathered his personal guard and tried to flee the capital, hoping to reach a hidden fortress in the outer systems. His shuttle launched from the palace roof, rising into the dark sky. It never reached orbit. Human ships were waiting. They did not destroy the shuttle. They simply surrounded it and forced it to land. When the doors opened, Lieutenant was standing there with a team of soldiers. Looked at the human with pure hatred. "You dare touch a high prelate. You dare lay hands on a chosen servant of the universe." His face showed nothing. "You ordered the deaths of human children. You laughed while our people burned. You called us insects. You are insects. You are nothing." Stepped forward. For a moment thought the human would strike him. Instead, simply placed restraints on his wrists. "I have waited 3 years to not kill you," said quietly. "One more insult will not change that, but do not test my patience. Humans have very little patience left." Was taken to a holding facility. He would face trial for his crimes, along with every leader who had ordered attacks on human civilians. The trials would be fair. The evidence would be public. The galaxy would watch. On the civilian government sent a message to Captain Park. They wanted to surrender. They wanted peace. They would accept any terms. Received the message on the Evergreen, now orbiting the capital. She read it carefully. Then she wrote her response. The terms were harsh but fair. Full payment to the families of every human killed. public trials for war criminals, permanent reduction of military forces, opening of space to galactic observers. They accepted in less than a day. When the surrender was announced, Dr. Shin immediately began organizing aid missions. Human medical ships entered space, not as conquerors but as healers. The war had disrupted supply lines. Medicine was running low. Food was becoming scarce. The humans helped anyway. Personally led a team to a city where a disease outbreak had begun. The local hospital was overwhelmed. Doctors worked desperately to save their patients, but they did not have enough supplies. Then the humans arrived. Walked through the hospital directing her team. They set up equipment. They handed out medicine. They worked alongside doctors as if the war had never happened. A child lay in one of the beds. She was small, maybe 6 years old by human counting. Her gray skin was pale from sickness. Her small eyes watched with confusion and fear. "Why are you helping us?" the child asked. Her voice was weak but curious. "Your people hate us. Our leaders hurt your people." Sat beside the bed. She checked the child's temperature and adjusted her medication. "Our leaders hurt each other," said gently. "But you did not hurt anyone. You are just a little girl who is sick, and I am a doctor. Doctors help sick people. That is what we do." The child thought about this. "My grandfather says humans are evil. What do you think?" The child looked at the medicine had given her. She looked at the human doctors helping her people. She thought for a long moment. "I think my grandfather was wrong." Smiled. It was the first real smile any human had shown since Captain Park removed her diplomatic badge. It felt strange. It felt right. "Maybe someday," said, "your grandfather will change his mind too." Outside the hospital, the galaxy was changing. The Dominion, once the most powerful force in known space, had fallen in less than a week. Not through destruction, not through genocide, through precision, preparation, and mercy. The humans had proven that they could be terrifying when pushed, but they had also proven something else. They had proven that even in victory, they chose to be kind. Observer recorded it all. She added note after note to her observation logs. She knew these records would be studied for centuries. Future generations would ask how a species known for smiling and helping could also defeat an empire without killing a single enemy soldier. She wrote her conclusion with careful words. "Humans are not what they seem. They are patient, but their patience has limits. They are kind, but their kindness is a choice. They are capable of terrible violence, but they choose mercy instead. Today, the galaxy learned a truth that they learned too late. Never mistake human gentleness for human weakness. They are not the same thing. They have never been the same thing." No species will forget the day humans lost their patience. Part 5. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Dominion. The Galactic Council chamber looked different now. The same floating lights drifted overhead. The same strange air filled the room, but the feeling was changed. Where once there had been arrogance and dismissal, there was now careful respect. Admiral Park walked to the speaking platform. Her uniform carried new marks of rank. Her black hair was still tied back in its tight knot. She still looked calm, but now when she looked calm, no one mistook it for weakness. 1 year ago, she began, humanity from this council. Today we return." The chamber was silent. Thousands of alien diplomats watched her. Many of them remembered the day she had removed her badge and walked out. Many of them remembered the war that followed. "But we do not return as we left," continued. "We do not return to beg for fairness. We do not return to ask for justice. We return because you asked us to." She gestured to 3 new seats that had been added to the council floor. Human seats, permanent seats. Humanity would never again be a junior voice in galactic politics. Lieutenant stood beside her, wearing the uniform of the new Galactic Peacekeeping Division. He commanded a mixed force of human and alien soldiers, created to prevent any species from doing what they had done. His face was still hard, but his eyes had softened slightly. Peace looked good on him. Observer rose from the neutral section. She carried a small device in her hands. "Before we continue," she said, "I have something to share." She activated the device. The room filled with light. Images appeared in the air. Her documentary, the one she had been recording since that day in the council chamber. She had titled it "The Day Patience Ended." The documentary showed everything. The years of human diplomacy, the insults, the murdered civilians, Captain Park removing her badge, the silence that followed, the battle at New, the fall of the Dominion, the trials, the mercy. It lasted only 20 minutes, but it told a story that would shape galactic history. When it ended, spoke again. "This documentary is now required viewing at every military academy and diplomatic school in the galaxy. Future leaders will study what happened here. They will learn from it." She paused. "They will remember." Admiral Park nodded in thanks. Then she did something unexpected. She began to read names. Park, age 42, teacher, killed when his ship was attacked. Age 8, student, killed with her family. Lee, age 35, farmer, killed defending his wife. Name after name, age after age, story after story, every human who had died during the raids, every victim who had been forgotten by the council, every person whose death had been called not enough proof. The reading took almost an hour. The chamber stayed silent throughout. When she finished, Park looked up from her list. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "We will never forget them, and we will make sure the galaxy never forgets them either." In the weeks that followed, things changed. Dr. Shin expanded her medical network until it covered more worlds than any organization in galactic history. She trained alien doctors in human techniques. She shared human medicines freely. She built hospitals on planets that had never known modern health care. She became known as the healer of worlds. When asked why she worked so hard, she always gave the same answer. "Because healing is better than hurting. It always has been." Engineer led a new technology-sharing program. Human inventions spread across the galaxy, improving lives everywhere. Faster communication, cleaner energy, better ships. She worked with alien engineers as equals, teaching and learning in return. She often said that knowledge should not be a weapon, it should be a gift. Former ambassador was not executed for his crimes. Instead, he was sent to a rehabilitation center where he spent his days teaching young about what had happened, about how arrogance had led to destruction, about how treating others as lesser had brought his people low. Some said it was too light a punishment, but when reporters asked Admiral Park about it, she shook her head. "Dead men cannot learn, dead men cannot teach. Will spend the rest of his life helping his people understand their mistakes. That is harder than death, and more useful." One day, after a council session, a young approached Admiral Park. He wore simple clothes and carried himself with nervous energy. He could not have been more than 20 years old, born after the war but raised in its shadow. "Admiral," he said, bowing low, "my name is, I am training to be a diplomat. May I speak with you?" Park nodded. "What would you like to say?" The young struggled to find words. Finally, he spoke. "I want to apologize on behalf of my generation. We did not choose what our leaders did, but we must carry the weight of their choices. I want you to know that we are trying to be better. We are trying to learn." Park studied him for a long moment. She saw the shame in his eyes. She saw the hope, too. She placed a hand on his shoulder. The touch made him flinch, but she did not remove her hand. "Trust is not rebuilt with words," she said. "It is rebuilt with time, action, and patience. You cannot fix what your leaders broke with a single apology. It will take years, decades, maybe longer." Lowered his head. "I understand." But Park continued, and he looked up. "Humans have plenty of patience. We always have. It is our greatest strength and our greatest gift. If your people are truly willing to change, we will wait. We will help. We will teach. She smiled, a small but genuine smile. We are very good at patience. On Nu, where the great battle had taken place, a statue was unveiled. It stood in the central plaza of the capital city, visible from every direction. The statue showed Captain Park in the moment she removed her diplomatic credentials. Her face was calm. Her hands were steady. Her eyes looked toward the sky. The inscription at the base was simple. We asked for peace. You gave us war, we gave you mercy. Never forget. People came from across the galaxy to see it. They stood before it in silence. They read the inscription. They thought about what it meant. Observer visited the statue on the anniversary of the battle. She stood among the crowd, watching aliens and humans together, remembering and learning. She made a final entry in her observation log. The galaxy has a new saying now. When tensions rise, when diplomacy fails, when one species pushes another too far, someone always whispers, remember the humans. Remember what patience looks like when it ends. But I think this saying misses something important. Yes, the galaxy learned to fear human anger, but they also learned something else. They learned that humans will always offer peace first. They will always try kindness before violence. They will always choose mercy over revenge. The true lesson of this story is not that humans are dangerous. It is that humans are good. Genuinely, deeply, stubbornly good. And they will fight to protect that goodness when others try to destroy it. I have lived for 300 years. I have watched empires rise and fall. I have seen the best and worst of 100 species. The humans give me hope. They always have, and after everything I have witnessed, I believe they always will. She closed her log and looked up at the statue. Captain Park looked back at her from bronze and stone. Forever frozen in the moment everything changed. The moment patience ended. The moment mercy began. The moment the galaxy learned that humans were unlike anything they had ever seen. And the moment no species would ever forget.